This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. If you don't already subscribe to Paramount Plus, please use our affiliate link by going to talkthroughmedia.com/Paramount Plus. Using our affiliate link gives us a little credit, which helps us to keep bringing you great content. U.S. residents only.
Hello and welcome to episode 74 of the Star Trek Discovery Podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Ruthie.
And before we get started, we want to remind you that we now provide early access to a virtually uncensored version of the podcast. It goes out within about 24 hours of recording most weeks. And this goes out 1 to 3 days before the regular podcast and has all the sausage being made, so to speak. So all the raw stuff, and you can get that at patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie to sign up. And we don't really have any feedback for the last week's episode, season 4, episode 12, titled Species 10C, because we haven't released it yet. We just recorded it last night. This is Thursday, April 14th, and we recorded episode 12 last night. So that hasn't been released, even the Patreon members yet. So, but it will be getting it later tonight. Anyway, so about this week's episode, it is the season finale. And then should mention for Picard listeners, after we do this episode, we go back to Picard, and we'll be on Picard the rest of the way until Strange New Worlds comes out. But we figured we might as well get this out of the way. Anyway, season 4, episode 13, titled Coming Home. It is written by the showrunner, Michelle Paradise, and directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi, who's an executive producer, sort of the show's leading director. The description from ParamountPlus.com is as follows. In the season 4 finale, the DMA approaches Earth and Navarre. With evacuations underway, Burnham and the team aboard the USS Discovery must find a way to communicate and connect with a species far different from their own before time runs out. The runtime was 1 hour and 32 seconds, and it was released March 17th, 2022. So, Ruthie, what would you give out of 10 Coming Home?
I would probably say 8.75.
Okay. What did you give it the last episode?
Like 8.5.
So slightly better? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
I gave the last episode, I think it was a 9.4. And it's difficult for me to say. I mean, I largely really enjoyed this episode, but it suffered from, there were a couple of things I didn't like too much about it, but not so much to bring it way down. So I guess I would probably give it about the same 9.4. So yeah, again, I can't think of anything to describe the episode other than 9.4. So we have some listener ratings. Why don't you start them, Ruthie?
Jim from Orange gives it 10 out of 10.
Comic Geek Kev just says, loved it.
Brian from Colorado says, wow, wow, wow. This was epic. One of, if not the best Discovery episode made to date. I rate it 9.95 gas giant aliens.
Mike from Arizona says, I give Coming Home a 9.8 cat doors out of 10.
That's funny. Wes from Minnesota says, best season finale. The season ended better than it started. 10 light signals out of 10. I would say the season finale this season was definitely better than last season. I don't know if I would say it was the best.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And Andy in the Midwest says, I'm giving this episode 9.4 cocktails with Reno. That's a good one. Yeah. The season as a whole was a little drawn out, but overall, I liked the plot. Okay, so let's move on to our yeses.
Yes!
Brian from Colorado. He says, the whole language with the 10C subplot was handled very well after the setup last week. Although, see also my Hold Your Horses. And the visuals of actually showing the aliens were absolutely spectacular. I would agree with that, by the way. Reno was used well in this episode again, and I would agree with that one as well. And I even liked the way the writers redeemed Tarka, Book, and General Ndoye. That was handled in a very nuanced way by Discovery's writing standards. I don't know how. I would agree. I don't feel terribly Tarka being completely redeemed, but I guess partially because he let Book go. But I guess other than that,
too little, too late.
Yeah. Likewise, the payoff with President Tarina and Saru finally coming together felt earned and very well performed. I would agree with that as well. Also, having Stacey Abrams make a cameo as Earth President was an amazing surprise. She can really act, too. Star Trek optimism and ethical messages poured through this episode, and indeed most of the season, which I appreciate greatly, especially given how the series began so different way back in season 1.
It's definitely different.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have Wes from Minnesota who says, yes, the surprise cameo appearance of Stacey Abrams as the president of United Earth. I loved that cameo.
Last is Andy from Midwest. He says, Tilly. And then he says, Earth rejoins the Federation. Very good. All right. Ruthie, what did you have for yeses?
Pretty much everything Reno did or said.
Oh, she was a gem this episode. That's for sure.
Yep. We'll die fast. I hate pain.
Yeah. And the hot and sour soup comment. Yeah. I thought that was going somewhere. And it's like,
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry.
A cat door, obviously. That was that was fun. When Admiral Vance said, I'm glad you never ditched engineering. That was fun. Talking to Tilly.
Yeah, I know. That was funny.
She said she skipped out on her whatever class it was. I can't remember.
Yeah. Biology?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Let's see. The punch to the face that Book delivered. That was pretty awesome. But really, I was like, why aren't they doing more to restrain him?
A punch to the face that should have been delivered 3 or 4 episodes ago.
Yeah, if not more. I really liked how the decks just basically took off from Federation HQ.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's so cool. That was nice. I think that's probably about it. Oh, and Tilly, of course. Tilly is back.
Of course, Tilly.
Finally. Tilly, we love Tilly.
I did not write anything down for yeses. So I'll try to see if I can think of anything off the top of my head that hasn't already been expressed. But you brought some good ones. Nope. I can't think of anything. But I might think of something later. So, okay. Let's move on to our nose.
No.
All right. First, we have Brian from Colorado who says, as much as I love the characters of Tilly and Vance, I found the scenes of them alone orbiting Earth, drinking whiskey, almost laughably bad. Where was everyone else? In fact, the entire Earth evacuation subplot of the story was not handled well at all. Normally, I'd probably take off more in my rating for something like this, but I like the episode overall so much, especially compared to the rest of the season, that I'm willing to cut them some slack. Everyone else abandoned ship.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really have a problem with it. So
I didn't either. I mean, I can see how you might be disappointed about it, but I don't know. I thought it was all right.
yeah. Wes's no is a no. Wes from Minnesota says, no faults with this episode. So,
All right.
Ruthie, what do you have for no's?
I don't know that I really have any no's. They're all just hold your horses,
Okay.
I think.
Well, this is probably going to be controversial, so I'll go with it. I thought the President Burnham scene, the president of Earth Burnham scene, was really didn't add anything to the episode. It was kind of like, hey, this is Stacey Abrams. Let's give her a chance to talk to Burnham. And it's like, would the president really take Burnham aside to talk to her for a few minutes? I don't know. I don't know. There was something about it. It didn't ring true to me. And my reaction to it, I think, will be better explained in the Hold Your Horses, but I will explain further. It will make that much more sense. The ending of the episode, I guess, played out like a 15-minute denouement. Like it was just basically, well, you have the end, and then it's just kind of, let's tie this loose end up. Let's have Tilly meet up with the crew again, and let's bring the Earth home. And it was this big long 15-minute, I don't know if it was exactly 15-minute, but it felt like 15 minutes of wrap up for the whole season, which I guess it was, but it just seemed overly long.
Well, The Return of the King had a half-hour ending, so.
Okay. That's the last Lord of the Rings movie, and I didn't see that one. I saw the first two, didn't see the third. So.
Couldn't bring it home, huh?
Nope.
Well, it was good, and it had a half-hour ending. I mean, I don't know what else you would expect after 12-hour saga.
How about a 15-hour prequel? I don't know if it's that long, but.
Are you talking about The Hobbit?
Yes, I am.
No, it wasn't 15 hours.
I know. It was an exaggeration.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's those are my no's. Let's move on to Hold Your Horses.
Hello, this is Captain Tilly. What the hell? What the hell? Hold your horses.
We're on season 4, and yet it's still just as good as in season 1.
Yep.
All right. Brian from Colorado is next. He says, or is first, he says, I didn't understand how Zora was actually in the gas giant structure with the crew and helping with the translation/conveyance of the messages to the aliens. Also, I didn't really believe that Saru could really type what people were saying and convey such complex thoughts to the other species, given how simple their messages were, only communicating emotion in the previous episode. Brian, you are tapping into my mind here. That is exactly the point I was going to make, but you made it very well for me. This was the problem that I had. First is like really, short messages, and then all of a sudden, Book is like giving this whole speech about loss and all that stuff, and it's just like, geez.
It was before that, though.
Yeah,
President Rillick was doing it.
Right.
Burnham was doing it. Everybody was doing it. And I was like, wow, he's wow.
Yeah.
like we've moved away from sadness and loss to these super complex messages. Yeah. I agree with you, Brian from Colorado. It was kind of terrible.
Yeah, it was it just was too far too fast. That was my take on it exactly. So I agree with you 100% on that.
Yep.
He says, again, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt and assume the algorithm got a lot better at translating, but it seemed like quite a leap. Yes.
Yeah, not that much better.
Yeah.
Also, Saru was typing so fast. It's not just like, I don't know. Yeah. It's not like a straight 1-for-1 translation. It's not like typing on a keyboard and the message appears on your screen. It's not really. So I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a bit much.
Yeah. It seemed a bit much to me. I was completely in agreement with you. All right. Next,
we have Wes from Minnesota who says, book in stasis? The 10C holding his transporter beam for that long? And I say, come on, that's nowhere near the longest time someone has been held in transporter stasis.
Scotty Janolan, 75 years. Okay, that's a TNG spoiler. All right. Last from our listeners is Mike from Arizona. He says, I only had a few hold your horses. Tarina holding out on the telepathic communication option. Saru typing responses into their version of a translator. Wouldn't voice translation be more efficient? And the general being transported to sickbay after Owoshikan claimed she couldn't beam the pilot out. Okay.
Yeah. There was a lot of shakiness going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Although I don't know that I would necessarily complain, I guess, or have a problem with Tarina holding out on the telepathic communication because, as they all said, it's so dangerous and it did make her nosebleed. So I would say that's probably a last resort option, which is what they did and used it for.
Yeah. All right, Ruthie, what do you have for Hold Your Horses?
I just thought when again, rolling my eyes so hard, they almost fell out of my head when Burnham was like, come on, everybody, let's go down. Like, really? The whole bridge crew has to go?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Just, it's just poor writing to get most of the cast in one spot so they don't have to, like, I don't know, jump around or something so they can all fill up. I don't know. How many times was the entire bridge crew left on the bridge in other shows and a couple people went down with some disposable security officers? And Geordi was always in engineering unless it was a specific mission where he had to go down. I don't know what is going on with these people, and they're just not very good writing, but honestly,
it did seem
disappointing.
It did seem a little bit, I don't know, world's biggest away team ever.
Yeah. Like, I understand sending the diplomats, but the entire bridge crew?
Yeah.
Not so much.
And we got more of that thing I was talking about last episode where, it's like, let's stare at this character. Let's stare at this character. Let's get a close-up of this character. Let's get a close-up of Burnham and then an action.
Yeah. They do that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but it really just feels like they're overcorrecting for the lack of attention they gave the bridge crew in the first season, I guess, because the second season it wasn't so bad. But now it's like everybody has to pipe in and they always have to come on, everybody. Let's all have ideas. There are no bad ideas. I'm like, well, sometimes there are. So
Well,
like not everybody has to contribute. Like some people can just, I don't know. So they have to like give everybody a line. And when they give everybody a line, they got to put the camera on them.
Yeah. And that's one thing that they do is they've got to put the camera on the people. And it's like you go back to Next Generation or Voyager or Enterprise, even, you didn't really see that. Like, if they didn't have, they may have been on the bridge, but, if they didn't have something specific to do, they didn't have a throwaway line. They didn't necessarily have some close up, reacting to the alien.
Yeah, the camera was on the bridge and they were on the bridge and everybody was doing their thing on the bridge.
Right. And you would see like a camera facing the view screen, and not so much the camera facing them looking at the aliens on the view screen.
Right. Like we can see the view screen too. And they would show us something on the view screen and we would all go, ooh.
Yeah.
And, and we can see everybody reacting to. I mean, they would show sometimes like different angles on the bridge too, not just that view. But anyway, I don't know. It's just dumb what they're doing.
And you compare, and the funny thing is, like you compare, and we'll take Picard season 1 out of this, but what we saw on Picard season 2, episode 1, okay, 'cause that's really the only one that we can compare it to at this point. But what we saw on the Stargazer and how they were dealing with things, that's how you would do it. That's like exactly how it should be done. And how, like, you and I were watching first couple episodes of The Expanse, which by the way, we need to continue that. A
little bit more recording to do though.
Yes, I know. And that we will, once we do that, then we'll get back to that. But anyway, The Expanse does a good job of that as well, where it's kind of everything's in context, I guess. So I think they need to kind of do a better job of that. I'm curious to see how they're going to do things on Strange New Worlds.
I mean, I remember them having like close-up shots of like Uhura and Spock in the original, but not because they had throwaway lines, like Spock was looking into his little glowy thing that always glowed back on his face and observing something. I never really understood what that was. I was like, is that like a telescope or like a periscope sort of a thing?
Yeah.
I never understood what that was. I was like, what is he looking at? Anyway.
His viewfinder.
Yeah, pretty much.
What they call it wasn't viewfinder.
The 3D.
3D, yes.
3D thingy with the slides or whatever
that
you would like click through.
Yep. That.
I don't know what they call that. An old school 3D thingy.
Very old school.
Now you've got like VR stuff. You put your phone in a pair of VR glasses and do stuff. I had a pair of those, but they didn't really work out that well.
Yep. Do you have anything else for Hold Your Horses?
Oh, I do.
Okay.
I've got, I didn't really appreciate Book trying to talk sense into a madman at the last minute. I mean, really? Come on now. And the fact that it worked was even less believable. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, I just, like, all of a sudden he's like, oh, you know what? You're right. Come on. You would think like the time that he would come to his senses would be before they got suicide rammed by another ship, but whatever.
You would think.
Like bumper space shuttles or whatever. And my next Hold Your Horses was once again stopping for a pep talk after the abandoned ship order has been given. Really?
Yep.
I mean, Oh, you guys did such a great job. Now get off the ship. No, you get off the
Yeah.
ship. I mean, we don't
I
have
wish
to
we could have
a-
done more.
Yeah, no, just you go. The abandoned ship order is given for a reason. It means
Get off the
make
ship.
all haste to get off the ship.
Yep.
Oh,
Done-
so irritating.
Done in a way that, they already expect her to stay, even though, those intentions haven't been given. And then Vance kind of like, hey,
Glances over.
he's
What are
like,
you still
hey, what are
doing
you
here?
still doing here?
Yeah.
Like you think Vance would say, get off the ship. That's an
Yeah,
order.
I would have expected a bit more pushback, but
You would
it was
think.
kind of like, all right, whatever. Like, really? Okay.
You would think.
I mean, and my final one, at least the final one I can think of right now, is I had a really hard time with them assuming that there is a word or a way to convey individual to a collective society. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Eskimos have how many words for ice? How many words do you think they have for summer? Or sunshine or sunbathing or whatever, I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, how do you explain the concept of one to a collective society like that? And he just, typed it out like, oh yeah, I know exactly how to. Really? It just drove me crazy. And this is actually something, speaking of The Expanse, I was reading the books, so good. And there is an aspect of it that has a collective society. And they did a really good job of explaining the difference between like how a collective society would think and how you could explain, such a thing to. Anyway, it was good. And I was just like, ugh, they didn't even like pause at the, like, I don't know. It just kind of drove me crazy. Like nobody had a problem with this. Like, anyway, yeah, just that's all I got about that. And I found another yes.
Okay.
When Burnham said, I said it right the first time. I thought that was hilarious.
Cool.
And so much of a little peek into their relationship, I thought, kind of their little banter that they have back and forth.
Yeah.
Anyway. And I liked that the Rillick said reasons do matter. It's the only way that justice can ever be just. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. You just reminded me of a yes.
Oh, what's that?
And that would be Sonequa Martin Green's just her portrayal of when she believes that Book's dead. That, like, he's getting out. And then suddenly when she realizes that they don't have his pattern and that he's gone, that like 5 seconds of like complete grief followed by, somewhat
Still
of
got a job to do.
Yeah. That just that expression on her face and just, coming to terms with it so quickly and having to move on and get with her job showed just, the professionality of Burnham and, how far she's moved, how far she's progressed in being a captain. But just the overall portrayal there, I thought it was so good and so real, so that would work for me very, very much. So I thought that was great. Yeah. I should have mentioned that earlier.
Really good job. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Controversial again, related to my controversial no. When Stacey Abrams showed up in the big reveal. I have to admit, I did not know who that was.
I didn't know who it was.
Okay, good.
I just thought this is some person on my, some actress.
Yeah, because for some people were making such a big thing about this being Stacey Abrams, and I've heard her name, and I know she's a politician, but
I
beyond
didn't even know that much.
yeah,
I literally found out who she was 3 minutes ago when I Googled her.
I mean,
It was a little bit more than 3 minutes.
I knew she ran for governor in the state of Georgia. That was one thing I knew. I also knew that she was defeated, and I knew that she was a big Star Trek fan. But I did not recognize her. I don't think I've ever seen her in person.
This is how much I didn't know who she was. I went to IMDb first.
Oh, geez.
And then the only credit I found her on was some like producer credits and then that one disco credit. And I was like, who is this person? So I had to Google her. So I had no idea, no clue who she was, but I try and stay away from politics because it makes me mad. So,
well, I mean, I would I could use the excuse I'm not a citizen yet.
I am a citizen. I still didn't know. I don't really have to know every person on the planet.
Well,
or every person in the U.S.
and I would,
or every politician in the U.S. Right. I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
Well, okay, but I would consider my political views pretty liberal at this point. I would lean more to the Democratic Party, I would say, but she's not someone that I knew. Right? I mean, I know of her. I've heard of her. I knew that she ran for governor. I knew that she lost. I didn't know much beyond that. I've since learned more. I learned that supposedly she was heavily involved with getting the vote out in Georgia to allow Biden to win the election in 2020. And I hear that supposedly she's going to be running for governor again, and may have a better chance this time. So I've heard all of this now, but I didn't know it at the time, so my reaction when I saw her was, who is this? Or I didn't even have the reaction. It's like, oh, another actor from Toronto.
Yeah, that was my thought. I'm like, I had zero recognition, zero. She looks kind of familiar. And I thought, honestly, I was like, well, this extra is kind of okay, I guess.
Yeah.
A tad bit clunky, but
whatever. And that is why, I had the reaction that I did of the scene, which was like, okay, what's this big, why are they having this scene? It doesn't really add anything to the plot. It just seems kind of a throwaway. Under the circumstance,
it was cool that they were welcoming the Federation back, but welcoming Earth back to the Federation. I thought that was cool.
I just didn't understand why she had to talk to Burnham. Like, what, why specifically Burnham? It's like Burnham is the center of everything. Of course, that's why you talk to Burnham. But it's. But anyway, that was my take, and I just think that it could have been done a little better. And the only reason I knew that it was Stacey Abrams was Will Wheaton on The Ready Room was making such a big deal out of it. That's how I first knew.
I haven't even watched The Ready Room yet.
Well, that's how I knew.
I first learned about it from Wes from Minnesota, who said the surprise cameo appearance of Stacey Abrams. I'm like, who the hell is Stacey Abrams? That's literally when I got anything. So you're one up on me.
Anyway.
Oh, man. That's funny. All right.
All right. Anyway, that's it for my Hold Your Horses. Let's move on to our listener feedback section and open hailing frequencies. Okay, so we have one voicemail, and guess who it's from? Guess.
Is it from Jeff?
Hello, Star Trek fans. This is Jeff X-Force 11 leaving my feedback about the season finale of Star Trek Discovery. I really enjoyed this episode. Were there some nitpicks in there? Sure. But I think this episode did a good job in wrapping up a season that had its ups and downs and was somewhat uneven. I still think it was better than last season's overall, but I really enjoyed it. I did not expect them to save Book, and so that was a welcome save. But I like the footing that this left us on for next season, and just the importance of family and the importance of this crew together. And so I thought they did a really good job of showing the unity there and just the ability to work together and a hope for a future with the new federation coming together. So I thought they did a good job. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next season. Those are my thoughts. X-Force signing out.
Yay, Jeff.
That was a good assessment of the season, I thought, Jeff. And thank you for a perfect 13 of 13. So, yeah, I would agree. I thought that this season was better than last. Not by a lot. I still say, and I think Ruthie and I are in agreement that the best season of Star Trek Discovery was season 2.
Yep.
I'd even say, I don't know what you would say about this, but I would say my second favorite season of Star Trek Discovery, as much as this would surprise some, would be season 1.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, it started pretty weak, but there was a good, strong number of episodes in the middle. You know, it ended kind of weak, but there were a good, strong.
For all of its flaws with the Klingon craziness and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And I'm still surprised that we have seen hide nor hair of Klingons in season 4 either.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah.
Did they all die? Nobody's even mentioned them.
Well, they've mentioned them, but not.
Have they?
Yeah, but not like sort of like in passing, not like they're existing, but sort of like, I know.
Oh, the Klingon coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. The Klingon coffee, the thing, I think Book mentioned them in one episode, but it was more like a story about Klingons, you know, like how does, I think it was when, Book was comparing his reaction to, you know, whoever was behind the DMA versus him wanting to attack versus Burnham wanting to, you know, initiate first contact and how the situations were different.
Yeah, but that's not, that's mentioning them.
Yeah.
That's saying the word Klingon. That's not
Exactly.
what I meant.
I know.
What I meant was
actually see them.
No, what I meant was no one has even said anything about like,
where are they?
And here's what happened to the Klingons.
Right.
It's like, so their absence is starting to be glaring. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, not even a passing comment about, oh, and the, you know, Klingon homeworld blew up. You know, just something. So I know. Otherwise, I'm like, where are they? Why aren't they there? Why hasn't anybody said anything about them? I mean, they were an empire. So someone could have, a lot can happen in 930 years. I get that. But
right.
I mean, it was such a big deal in season 1. You would think someone would mention something or someone would ask, hey, whatever happened to the Klingons in the past 930 years that we were, that we've been gone or whatever. I mean, a lot of crazy stuff happened. And now suddenly nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Agreed. Yeah. But again, Jeff, thank you for your support over the many seasons of this show and Picard and Lower Decks, and just your consistency at sending the feedback in voicemails every week. We love it. All right. That's it for voicemails. We've got some written feedback, though. Do you want to
I'll
take
start.
Jim?
Yeah. All right. Jim from Orange says, OMG, Tilly is back. And boy, what an amazing season finale. These last two episodes saved this season for me. I will say this is my favorite episode of the season and favorite season finale of Discovery. Well written, great pacing, and great acting by everyone involved. Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was my favorite. I would say it's my third of four seasons. And I would say it's probably the second favorite of the season finales, I guess. Because I would
I don't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite finale, season 2. I think this was better than season 3, and season 1 was kind of not so good either. In terms of a finale. So
I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Comic Geek Kev is next. He says, this show, and in brackets, he says, all the new Trek shows just look amazing. The whole scene with the 10C was beautiful. I'm happy with the way the season ended after they brought back Book. I was afraid they were going to undo the destruction of his world. I don't know how they would have, but they're pretty advanced. And that's a shrug, I think, emoji. And I have to admit, Kev, I was right there with you. I was concerned that they were going to undo it as well. And I'm glad to say that they didn't. Great to see Tilly again, and I like the wrap-up scenes for the most part. The cameo at the end was pretty well done. I know I never heard a peep about it. Probably could have cut a couple of episodes or combined a couple, but it's hard to argue against more Trek. Yeah, I mean, one thing that this show does do, like the 13 episodes, tends to have pretty long episodes. So I don't know if they could have combined some of the episodes up. Maybe a couple of them. I know I've kind of had that feeling with Picard a little bit this season with a couple of them, but we haven't really got that far yet. But yeah, I would agree with that to an extent. All right, next.
All right, next we have Mike from Arizona who says, a thrilling season finale that left me wondering down to the last minute if they were going to be successful and who was going to live to see it. Michael's grief reaction to Book's failure to rematerialize was so touchingly painful to watch, and then she effectively recomposed herself to finish the mission. The graphics of the 10C beings were amazing. Having most of the crew on the planet representing the diverse species affected by their mining tool was a nice look. Having Book be the one to challenge the 10C to stop their mining tool altogether was a good piece to his redemption arc. Tilly and Reno making appearances was wonderful. Tilly staying with the Admiral was also a great way of reflecting the maturity her character has undergone. Trina and Saru finally make a go at it. Other cast members getting to contribute to saving the day. Michael being the captain we needed for this mission, and having the special guest appearance at the end was wonderful to see as well, given her stated Star Trek fandom. I laughed, I cried. It was a wonderful season finale.
Good. I would agree. All right, last, Andy in the Midwest says, I don't have a lot to say this week, but I'm looking forward to season 5, and I hope they really give the whole cast a chance to shine after seeing what they can do this season. Yeah, I mean, I would say that we have had some good scenes with, or good episodes, especially with Detmer and Woshikun. Above the rest of them, I think some of the ones that have had, other time, it's kind of been throwaway stuff that hasn't been too substantial, but like specifically the one episode where we had Detmer on the planet there. She did a really good job in that episode, and that was Rosetta, I think, episode 11.
Mhm.
And then I don't remember the title right off the top of my head, but episode 9, the one where they're at the casino barge, whatever it's called,
Mhm.
with the Wushkin and her fighting. I thought that was a really good episode for her. So I would like to see more of them. And there are other characters that I'd like to see more of, and other characters that, I don't know, we haven't seen a lot of depth, and I don't know if there is any depth. You know, I mean, not every character is going to have much depth. Like, not every character is going to turn into an O'Brien. That's a background character. We'll see, though.
Yeah, I think they're kind of forcing it a little bit. And I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. I think if they just stick to Detmer and Awoshikan, to me, I think that's good. I think if they try to force the other ones and give them a lot of screen time at this point, I don't know, unless they show a little more than what we're seeing right now, I don't know if it's going to be earned. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Do you have any other notes?
Yes. Right at the beginning of the episode, I was like, will Ndoye get caught? I kind of hope so, but then I also don't want her to get in trouble. And then, like, literally, like 5 minutes later, she was like, it was me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, wow, she just straight out confessed. And then she found out she got played. So it was kind of a roller coaster of emotions there. And sticking with Ndoye, I was like, it seemed sort of appropriate to have her be the one to fly off and sacrifice herself after what she did.
Yeah.
Even if she did it unwittingly, I still kind of felt like, I mean, you got to own what you do. And she did. And it kind of made me respect her character a little bit more. Honestly, I really like the character of Ndoye. She's done a lot of things that I have really respected.
Yeah.
Throughout this final half of the season.
Yeah. She stuck to her guns. I understand why she did what she did. She made some tough decisions. They're not necessarily decisions that I would have made, but they're decisions that, under the circumstances, you can understand why she would make them. So, you know.
Yep. Let's see. What else do I have? I put in my notes, mind meld, not the worst use of it. I mean,
True.
I've seen terrible uses of the mind meld. I thought really that it was going to come down to Book and Reno doing something to stop Tarka on Book's ship, but the whole bumper space shuttles thing was more interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
Unexpected, I think.
Sure.
Is what I'm really looking for there.
Okay. Nothing else?
I think that's about it.
So I thought that someone else should have died besides Tarka. And there were multiple possibilities there. First, obviously, Book could have died, and we thought that he did. And it's like, nope, he's alive. We saved him. And, we've seen this kind of thing before. But so he didn't die. Then Ndoye could have died. And that was another one that, again, It was all set up, ready to go. And she could have died. And then it's like, nope. Again, to me, it felt like, well, we're going to need her next year, so we don't want to kill her. And then it's like Detmer. You know, if they had sent Detmer instead, they could have killed her off. And then it's like, no, we want to do more with Detmer next season. So, no, we want to kill anybody else. So, you know what? We're just going to kill Tarka because you know what? Tarka is a waste of skin. And we're just gonna send them over to a new another universe, or maybe we won't. So, you know,
nobody likes him anyway.
Nobody likes him anyway. He's just a crazy guy who screams for no particular reason. Although Saru and Burnham got something out of it, I guess. but yeah. He's like the one guy who no one would really care if he died. And, you know, Reno could have died too. And, you know, a lot of people would have been mad if that had happened. So I guess the fact that no one died is okay. But this reminds me a bit of The Walking Dead in recent seasons, where it's like they don't want to kill anybody off. They just, you know, for the most part, they're going, you know, from episode to episode, and they don't seem to kill anybody. So, and I haven't seen the ending of the season, this mid-season, so there may have been a death. I don't know, but I know there was one at the first part of the one of three, but I don't know about this one. But anyway,
my point. Tell you,
I know. Don't tell me. I'm at episode 13 right now, so. But that's where I'm at. There was the opportunity to have a character death, and they didn't make one. And you know, not you like to see characters die, but when characters always live, that makes it easy for you to never expect. You know, like Burnham's never going to die. Like she may be in peril, but you know she's never going to die because she's Burnham, because the show would end. You know,
right? Like Meredith Grey on Grey's Anatomy,
right? I
mean, the show is literally called Grey's Anatomy,
right? So, yeah, exactly so, and that's what you see. You know, you're not gonna, if you don't kill anybody off, they're just never going to be in peril. So anyway, that's my take on it. As far as spot the references this week, the only things I can mention are, like, we have a couple of starships that were mentioned. The Mitchell was mentioned. I think the Mitchell had been mentioned before, but that's named after Kenneth Mitchell, who of course had played Kor, and then Koroth, and then last season played what was his name? I didn't write this down, but the scientist that I can't even think of her name. The Orion bad person.
Yeah, what's his face? His scientist guy.
Right. Aurelio.
Yeah, that guy.
Cole Shaw. I don't think I said that right. He played Cole, not Kor. Kor was Cole's brother. So he played Cole. He played Cole Shaw, who was father of Cole. He played Tenavik, who was Laurel and Vox child. So, yeah. And then Aurelio, who was Osira's scientist. There was also the mention of the USS Nog, who we've heard before, and the USS Yelchin for Anton Yelchin. So, yeah, other than that, and of course we mentioned, some of the other species that have joined. They said that since this hadn't really been mentioned before, they mentioned the Tellarites hadn't ever left the Federation. They were still there, even though we saw, I think at one point they had a merchant outpost or something in season 3, but they were still part of the Federation. They mentioned the Andorians were in talks, and that obviously Earth was rejoining. So, and of course Navarre had rejoined, and of course Navarre was formerly Vulcan and Romulus combined, sort of. Okay, so that's it for our spot the references. I really didn't have many this time around. So let's move on to our Shipwide announcements. And we're not going to do Parrot Analytics this week. We're going to instead move that to the Picard show because it's more Picard based. So we're just going to handle the news. And of course, since he's been doing such a good job, Wes from Minnesota, Wes Huntington from the Twin Cities Star Trek podcast is up with the news.
Thanks, Brian and Ruthie. I'm Wes Huntington, one of the 2 co-hosts of the Twin Cities Trekkies podcast. The episode of the Ready Room that aired on March 17th was dedicated all to the finale of Star Trek Discovery Season 4, which was titled Coming Home. Host Will Wheaton interviewed stars Nico Martin Green, executive producer Olatunde Osunsanmi, and executive producer Michelle Paradise. All 3 of them talked about their hopes for the future. They teased a little bit about Season 5, which is expected sometime in 2023. And they mentioned the fact that Mary Wiseman's time with Star Trek Discovery is not over. She will be back in Season 5. There was also a preview of the next episode of Star Trek Picard, which was later revealed a few days later to be titled Watcher. Here's what's making news this week in the Star Trek universe for all you Talk Through Media Star Trek podcast listeners. If you watched the final episode of Season 4 of Star Trek Discovery entitled Coming Home, you saw at the end a title card that read, For April with Love. We have just found out that April Nakamura, who was a supervising producer on the first 4 seasons of Star Trek Discovery, had passed away in December of cancer. She often is credited as April Rossi, and her Trek work stretches all the way back to Star Trek The Next Generation, where she was a production assistant and associate to Ronald D. Moore, according to Memory Alpha. She also supervised post-production on Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager, and was assistant to Peter Lortzen on Star Trek First Contact. Her work outside of Star Trek includes such shows as The Dead Zone, which was produced by Michael Piller, Fringe, produced by J.J. Abrams, Terra Nova, produced by Brandon Braga, and Sleepy Hollow. Chad Rubel, who had been the editor this season for Star Trek Discovery, shared the news to Twitter. Actor Kenneth Mitchell, who appeared in the first 3 seasons of Star Trek Discovery as 4 different characters, including 3 Klingons, was honored in the final episode of Season 4 of Star Trek Discovery by having a Federation starship named the USS Mitchell. Mitchell, who is now suffering from the effects of ALS and cannot speak, was honored in that episode with the name of a Federation starship. In the finale of Season 4, you may have noticed a surprise cameo appearance by Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams, who plays the character of the President of United Earth. Executive producer Michelle Paradise and the writers had recalled Abrams's previous love for Star Trek, particularly in the lead up to the 2018 gubernatorial race against Brian Kemp, who ended up winning that election. For the role, Abrams did not want to know anything about the role, just what she wanted to know about the role prior to taking it. Star Trek Picard Episode 3 of Season 2, Assimilation, was directed by Leah Thompson, who is best known to sci-fi fans as Lorraine McFly in the Back to the Future trilogy. In an article published in The Hollywood Reporter, which contained spoilers for that episode of Star Trek Picard, she was very, very thrilled to be working on Star Trek Picard and also awestruck to direct Patrick Stewart. She also wanted to say there is a certain visual canon for time travel in Star Trek, and so we try to respect that, but also put our own spin on what it could be like going back in time. She should know, having been a Trekkie since she was young. She is also directing Episode 4, Watcher, which will air March 24th on Paramount Plus and on March 25th on Amazon Prime Video, everywhere else. Star Trek Wines, which has developed a few exclusive wines collection based upon certain aspects of the Star Trek franchise, is asking fans to come up with their trip to Risa with a design of their bottle that they're planning to make for their Risian alcohol beverage that they're planning to sell. There are two different variations, one that was shown in Star Trek Enterprise, the other one was shown in a recent episode of Star Trek Picard. So, either one will be preferable. You can go to StarTrekWines.com and make your voice heard. The Digital Bits is reporting that Star Trek, the motion picture, the Director's Edition 4K Ultra HD restoration that was announced last summer, will be finally getting a release date on Paramount Plus, set for release on April the 5th of 2022. Only available to Paramount subscribers. There is no news so far about physical media release of this 4K Ultra HD version. The 4K Ultra HD restoration of the original film is available right now on Blu-ray. If you're an international fan and have been expecting Star Trek Prodigy, you will be getting it soon, apparently, according to Paramount. Markets in Spain, Portugal, and Wallonia, Belgium, plus Central and Eastern Europe and Africa too, will be getting it via Nick Alive on April the 18th. It also will appear in France as well. No news yet about a UK release date, but that is expected soon. Time to boldly explore those strange new worlds. Literally. NASA announced March 21st that they have identified over 5,000 planets just outside of our solar system. This is exciting news, as this could be potentially a new era in space exploration. Twin Cities Trekkies is a weekly podcast dedicated to everything Star Trek. My podcast co-host Mackenzie Flickinger and I talk about everything from the original series all the way to the upcoming Strange New Worlds. New episodes are released every Wednesday. You can find Twin Cities Trekkies on every platform you can think of for podcasts. Our social media handles is TC Trekkies Pod for both Facebook and Instagram. You can also reach us by emailing us at tctrekkiespodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave us voice messages when you find the podcast at anchor.fm/Twin Cities Trekkies.
Well, thanks so much, Wes, for that news. All right, so moving on. Again, parrots will be in the episode of season 2, episodes 2 and 3 of Picard. So you'll hear that there. There is no more episodes of Discovery coming. So, and of course, we're still kind of getting back to normal on Picard. So we're still behind some. And there is no new deadline for Discovery because there's no new episode. We don't know when season 5 begins, but of course, and we're still behind on Picard. But if you have theories and feedback, you can go to talkthroughmedia.com/feedback, where you can submit text or audio. You can call us at 216-232-6146 and leave a voicemail. You can email us at StarTrekDiscovery@talkthroughmedia.com. Or, like most people, you can post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group, which is at facebook.com/groups patreon.com/TTM podcasts with an S at the end.
All right. If you would like to support the podcast, you can like our page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. And while you're there, write a review. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Star Trek TTM. Share us on Facebook and retweet us on Twitter, especially when we post that the new episode is out. You can subscribe to the Talk Through Media YouTube channel, which is where you'll find our newest episodes first. You can subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. And while you're there, give us a rating or review. Go to podchaser.com where you can rate and review the podcast and even individual episodes. Finally, the best way you can help us keep the lights on here at Talk Through Media is to support us via Patreon. And we would like to thank our Patreon supporters, James Robbins, Kim Vogley, Brian Shiro, Michael Carrier, Jeff Gentry, Robert Kaiser, Clint McCullum, Kevin Lyle, Aaron Mays, Mike, Trey, Lawrence Todd, Kyle McAdams, Morning Pace, and Andrew Davis. Thank you.
Thank you. All of our podcasts are available on the Talk Through Media all-inclusive feed. That includes Rebinge DS9, the Star Trek Picard cast, the Star Trek Lower Decks podcast, and the Star Trek Prodigy by Rebinge It podcasts, as well as the Walking Dead Talk Through. And speaking of that, Kyle and LT are still going through the Walking Dead. Their next episode will be covering the finale. It may be out by the time you hear this. I know I talked to Kyle today. There was a episode, I think, available on the AMC Plus, and I don't know for sure if it's on AMC or not. Might be, but it's like a one episode shot called Dead in the Water. It's like the zombie apocalypse on a submarine. So through some events that happen on Fear the Walking Dead, but you don't really need to know Fear the Walking Dead to watch that. So it's sort of a standalone. And so they may be covering that, they may not be, but after that, season 7B of Fear the Walking Dead returns on Sunday, I believe, and I believe there's going to be 2 episodes of it, if I understood correctly. So anyway, they'll be covering Fear the Walking Dead. The next episode of Star Trek Discovery, we don't know. The next episode's coming. I'll mention 2 of them since I don't know exactly when this is going to come through, whether we'll produce this ahead of Picard or after Picard. But season 2, episode 2 is titled Penance, and then season 2, episode 3 is titled Assimilation. That's the one that was mentioned by Wes. Is the first of 2 that's directed by Leah Thompson. And until next time, I'm Brian.
Ruthie.
Peace and long life.
Process.